On this video, you're going to see me give a lot of instruction on jerk baiting in the early spring, talking about cadence, pause, location of fish, all of those things. So stay tuned. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you to my sponsors, Direct Action Company, Dave Schleybaugh Financial Services, and Miller Tech Lithium Batteries. Thanks for watching. So when I'm throwing a jerkbait, your cadence is obviously very important. And right now the water's 55, 56 degrees, but the fish still aren't real active. And so they're setting up in the channel here a little bit. There's one right there. But when I do this, I have to make sure that I understand what the fish are doing and where they're setting up. Your boat positioning is huge. Obviously that's one of the most important things is getting your boat in a position that you can you make a cast where the fish are setting up. So right now, I'll show you here in a second, but right now what they're doing is the channel comes down like this, and so they're sitting, the current's coming around the corner of that bend, and so the fish are sitting right, they're kind of like the channel goes here, and the fish are just sitting right along there. And so in my bait presentation, in my jerkbait, it's really important that I am casting knowing where they're positioned. So when I pause it, that's when they're hitting, like that one right there, he hit it on the pause, and you just have to give yourself the best opportunity to catch a fish, understanding where the fish are, how they're positioned, and in relation to the bottom, the current, all of those things. And so that's really important. And like now, water's 55. So as I'm doing this, my jerks are not real aggressive. They're just kind of more of a pull or a drag, and I'm not moving the bait at all with my reel. Just wind it in slack, and then a couple jerks, let it sit. You really have to be patient and understand what the fish want in this type of a setup. Another thing when I'm fishing this, I want to know what the fish are eating, and right now they're chasing gizzard shad, they're chasing crappie, and if you find crappie fishermen, you've probably found bass, especially this time of the year. And so again, if you don't want to necessarily fish tiny baits or really large baits, but you want to kind of match the hatch and find the bait that gives you the best presentation. And right now, mega bass, I fished Lucky Craft for years. I fished all kinds of jerk baits, but mega bass, the casting is, it's unparalleled. And the other part of it is the action is just so consistent. And so so that's my choice. They're pricey, they are a little pricey, but I'm pretty good at not losing them, so it's good. But if this was more of a summer, if the water was 65 or 75 degrees and I'm sitting out on a point and I'm doing this, my jerks are probably more like this, shorter pauses. But for this time of year, that's not what I'm looking for. So my jerk's more of a 1, 2, let it sit, And you have to be patient. You know, most people that don't catch fish on jerkbaits, they're just not patient enough. And again, just let it sit. And you're not going to catch one every cast, but when you catch one, you want to get it, and you want to get it back in there, because usually they're schooled up there chasing bait. And like today, you know, when the wind has not pushed the current as much, I've really had to let it sit. You know, my bigger fish have come on longer pauses, and you know, just to understand what happens underwater. So this bait will sit there, and it suspends. You know, I have a little piece of lead tape there that I use, but as it goes and it jerks, right, now it's going to start suspending right at that level. And that fish is sitting there looking at it. So you jerk it again, you let it pause, and it backs up, the bait does. And that fish is trying, you're trying to trigger a reaction strike. You know, so you're trying to get that bait right in front of that fish. And on that next jerk, that thing will just reaction strike right onto it. So that's how I've caught my fish today. In fact, that's how I've caught my fish all year so far. But you know, just being patient, knowing how the fish are positioned, knowing, you know, what, you know, obviously what color, you know, and things like that is really important. But your cadence, I would say your cadence and your boat position are the two most important things. You know, right now I'm in like 6 feet of water, so I can use my power poles, and it keeps me positioned pretty nice. So it's a little easier to fish up here in the front of the boat, but again, I'm just gonna 1, 2, let it sit. You know, again, I'm not bringing the bait in with my reel at all. I'm winding in slack. And every movement of my bait has to come from the jerk. So 1, 2, and let it sit again, just pulling that slack. You know, and you just got to be patient. You just got to wait. And again, you just want that bait to sit in front of that fish until it triggers. You know, you just want to trigger that reaction. And right now, you know, like they're eating the bait today. And a lot of times, you know, bass primarily feed up in the water column. So if I'm hooking bass in the bottom jaw, you know, that's usually an indication that they're above my bait. And so just little things like that, you know, oftentimes when that happens, I'll take the lead tape off. I'll do some things to just maximize my opportunity to catch a fish. And you know, when you're fishing in a lake like this that has a ton of vegetation, you just got to plan on picking this stuff off the bait all day. It's not bad when you're catching it, and so, but when you're not, it sometimes gets a little frustrating. So, but again, you just, that slow jerk. When I get them in the top, you know, the top of the mouth, I know they're feeding up. I know I'm in a good place as far as depth-wise, and I know that when I'm not catching quality fish, it's not that quality fish aren't there. I might not be holding the pause. You know, sometimes you got to get rid of the little guys to get to the mom, and so, you know, those females sometimes they're a little more finicky, and there's a reason they're big. You know, and so you just got to be patient. You know, fish through the little ones to get that big one sometimes, and again, this time of year when you catch one, get it back in there so you can get another one.